Hello, I'm hoping this is live. I never know until I appear on my laptop, but I'm just going to assume at this point that I'm live because for the past 5 episodes it's been working. There I am. Hello. Um, yeah, so if you haven't already read my messages in the chat, I've had a very busy day today. I had to wake up at 6 a.m. for a job interview at the other end of the country, basically. So there was a lot of travelling today and yesterday because I stayed overnight in a hotel, hence why this video could not come out yesterday. So sorry about that. I hope that hasn't caused too much of an issue. It's nice to see people are still here and willing to do this 24 hours later. But yeah, so I'm very tired today. So if I do seem a bit boring compared to previous weeks, it's not because I'm bored, it's just because I am ready for bed. So as per usual, in one of the corners, I think it is that corner. Yep, I think. We've got the poll questions. So I think this week, well, we've got the usual ones. We've got how would you rate the episode as the first question, followed by which Series 11 episode is your favourite so far. Now, unfortunately, from this edition of the live streams onwards, it's going to be quite, what's the word, difficult, I want to say, to answer the poll questions for that. If you have a look, click on that eye and scroll down to see what I mean. But you can only fit 5 options onto each poll question. So what I've done, I've put, I think, the first 3 episodes on the first question, and then there's an option underneath that to say my choice is in the next list if your favourite episode is episode 4, 5 or 6. And similarly with the third question, it's which is your favourite Series 11 episode so far, part 2. I put a little 2 in brackets. And you can either vote for Arachnids in the UK, the Suranga Conundrum, Demons of the Punjab, or the fourth option is what you click on if your selection was done in the previous list, if that makes sense. I think I've explained that really poorly, but hopefully if you keep watching and watch me answer the polls myself in a second, I do hope you'll get what I mean. Yeah, and then underneath that we've got which Series 11 historical do you prefer? Do you prefer Rosa or this week's episode, or do you like them both equally? And then I think the final question is which alien race that we've seen in Series 11 is your favourite so far? So we've got the Stenza, Tim Shaw's race, we've got the Remnants, the Rags from episode 2, we've got the Pating from last week's episode, and obviously we've got the Demons, also known as the Vigerians, I think, from this week's episode. So by all means, vote in the poll, because I'd like to see what you make of the episode and how you compare it to the rest of Series 11. But yes, so I'm very quickly going to hide the chat so I don't get distracted. So unfortunately, I've had no time this week to do my usual things I liked, things I disliked list. So everything's going to have to be done off the top of my head this time. Hopefully that will be fine. We'll have to wait and see. But in a nutshell, I really enjoyed the episode. I thought it was far better than last week's, in my opinion, dreadful episode, the Suranga Conundrum. Really didn't like that episode. So it was nice to have a really good episode again. And it's just weird how you can go from 1 week, or 2 weeks you could argue, having subpar episodes. I think Arachnids in the UK was average for me. And as I just said, the Suranga Conundrum, that was a no for me. I came out of that not happy at all. But no, this episode, I'm somewhere, see, I'm thinking about how I would answer the polls. I liked it more than the liked it option that I've got on the poll question, but I'm not sure if I liked it enough to mark it as the love option. I'm going to have to make a decision in a moment. But yeah, so my current thinking is I really liked it, I suppose, so it's somewhere in the middle. What else can I say? I think Series 11 is doing historicals really well this year because both Rosa and Demons of the Punjab are my highlights of Series 11. I did think it was a bit disappointing that the demons weren't actually villainous, but at the same time, I did like the interesting angle that they were assassins that are now going around acknowledging the dead. I thought that was a really nice idea. I very nearly cried again towards the end of this episode, so that's a good sign for why I like it so much. So if you're curious to know the bits that made me well up, at the top of my head, I think it was, well, definitely the scene when Prem gets shot and his, I don't really know what it was, his like spirit, that, you know, the weird hologram of his head, when that floats up into the ceiling and there's all those other holograms as well, and you've got that brilliant Indian score by Segan Akinola. Yeah, I thought the music was very good in this episode as well. Yeah, so that bit I got teary-eyed over. Graham as well, when Graham, so everyone has just found out that Prem, his death is a fixed point in time, and you then have that scene between Prem, Ryan and Graham where Graham is basically saying that Prem is a good man and Prem is complaining about how ordinary people have now got this mob mentality. I thought Bradley Walsh's acting in that scene was phenomenal. Again, he does it all in his eyes. No, not just his eyes, but it's mainly the eyes I notice, how they get all watery. But yeah, no, how he was with Prem, getting him all ready for his wedding, knowing that he's going to die soon after that, and how I think his bottom lip is like quivering as well. That really got to me. And then the final thing that got me all teary-eyed is the very end of the episode, where yet again we have music that's not the Doctor Who closing theme over the credits. And if you've been following my previous live streams, that is something I absolutely love about Series 11. I thought it worked really well with Rosa, and it worked just as well this episode. Fun fact for you guys, I actually had no idea it was the Doctor Who theme at first. Yeah, when the episode ended, and I very quickly realised it wasn't the Doctor Who theme that we all know, I was like, oh cool, so they're going with this Indian sort of tribal music, and I sat there really enjoying it. And it wasn't until I went on Twitter later on that someone said, oh, I loved the variation of the Doctor Who theme that played at the end of the episode. And so I went back and listened to it, and finally I realised it was a rendition. So hats off to Segan for not only a brilliant score with this episode, but for actually creating another version of the Doctor Who theme, a nice Indian version. I really like that. But anyway, so I've been waffling on for enough time now. Time to see what you guys are saying. Right. Tia Martin. The BBC says Demons of Punjab was a hit, even though it fell off in the overnights at 5.8 million, resulting in a drop-off of almost 2.5 million since the series opener. Should Whovians be concerned? Ah, so a nice ratings question here. I don't think we should be concerned at all, to be honest, Tia Martin. Yes, 2.5 million is a big drop-off, but I do genuinely believe the big reason why so many people watched the Series 11 opener is out of curiosity to see a female Doctor. And really, well, I think, I forget the actual statistic, but I think it's the highest figure that Doctor Who's ever had in terms of the new series, I believe, because it was well over 10 million. Um, and I personally knew all along that not all of those 10 million viewers would watch the next episode and the episode after that and the episode after that and so on. So I was expecting quite a large drop off. But in terms of the figure for Demons of the Punjab, 5.8 million, yes, that's a bit low for my personal liking. But if you compare it to Peter Capaldi's series, that's actually what most episodes would get as a final consolidated figure when it's added up the weekly totals. So the fact that this episode, Demons of the Punjab, got it on its initial overnight airing, I think is very good. And to be honest, I do think, because it is, I think, a roughly 400,000 drop off from last week's episode, and I personally like to think that's because a lot of people were put off by the Siranga conundrum. I'm probably wrong in that, but that's my own thinking behind it. But it's a shame because this episode, as I've already said, I thought it was really good. Sorry, very quickly, before I go back to your lovely messages, I need to very quickly answer my own poll, and I'll also have a quick look to see if any of you guys have been voting in it. Don't forget, it's in that corner. Only takes 5 seconds, so if you've got 5 seconds and you don't mind doing it, go ahead. So how do I rate Demons of the Punjab? So I said earlier, I'm torn between love it and like it. Oh, you know what? It did things a bit different. I liked the fact that Prem's death was a fixed point and how the episode didn't shy away from having him die. As in, a lot of episodes would undo death. The Doctor would save the characters at the last minute, which is fine in some episodes, but Stephen Moffat did it way too much. So it's good that, again, the Doctor is in a position where she has to stand by and watch. I think that's quite interesting when she can't really influence time. Yeah, and I'm a sucker for emotional endings as well, which we definitely got with this episode. So I think for that, I will give it a cheeky love. Because I'm feeling very generous today. So, now we're on to the difficult questions that I was trying to explain earlier. So, which Series 11 episode is my favourite so far? For me, as much as I liked Demons of the Punjab, it still has got to be Rosa, because it is one of a few episodes that's made me cry. To be honest, I think it was more better written than Demons of the Punjab. I still think last night's episode was very good, but there were a couple of moments that don't stand out as much as the entirety of Rosa for me. So my choice is going to be Rosa for like the 4th week running now, which means my answer to the 3rd poll question, which Series 11 episode is the best so far, part 2, for that I have to select my choices in the other list. So hopefully that clarifies what I want doing with these polls. It just helps the proportions be more accurate, because otherwise you would select 2 favourite episodes and that wouldn't really work out. For question 4, which Series 11 historical is better? Has to be Rosa for me, for the reasons I've just mentioned. And then finally, which alien is your favourite? None of them really stand out, to be honest, but I think it has to be the Stenza. So those are my results. Please do answer them yourself. I'm going to quickly refresh the page to see if any of you guys have been voting so far. And then I will get on to your messages, because I am aware it's been about 15 minutes and I've yet to properly go through them. To be honest, I'm surprised that I'm still alive and not dead from tiredness. Okay, so pause the screen. Right, 41% of people who have voted so far loved the episode, like myself. 29% liked it. This is surprising. 17% thought it was simply okay. I was not expecting that. Nor was I expecting the fact that 11% didn't like it. Well, I thought most people would really like this episode, to be honest. It's good to see that no one's hating it so far. But no, I'm very surprised by that. So, right, this is the moment of truth to see if we've all been using this poll correctly. Which Series 11 episode is the best so far? Part 1. The winner with 37% is Rosa. Then we've got... Actually, really, I should look at both lists in one go in the hope that everyone's used it correctly. So, assuming everyone has used this correctly, 31, 68, 80... Yeah, I think we all have. Thank you very much. So it seems, from this at least, at this moment in time, most people like last night's episode, Demons of the Punjab. 40% of people voted for that. And now Rosa has been knocked back into second place with 37% of the vote. Then it is The Woman Who Fell to Earth with 18%. Then it's The Ghost Monument with 12%, followed by the Suranga Conundrum with 6%, and no one has voted for Arachnids in the UK yet, which is very interesting. Please keep voting away, guys, if you haven't already, because I'd love to see how this would change. Which historical is better? Oh, so even though in the previous questions people seem to have a preference for Demons of the Punjab, with this question people seem to prefer Rosa, because we've got 56% of people going for that episode and 43% going for Demons of the Punjab, and no one likes them both equally. Very interesting. And then finally, which Series 11 alien is your favourite? The winner, with just over 50% of the vote, 53 to be exact, is the Demons. I wasn't expecting that. But then I suppose none of the villains have... Well, I shouldn't call them villains because they were quite nice in the end. None of the aliens have been particularly interesting, really. So I think I can understand that being picked. And then second place is the Stenza. Third place is the Remnants. And not a single person has voted for the Pating. Oh, bless it. So thank you very much for voting in that poll. Oh, now I've got to try and catch up with these messages. So I've already said what I thought of the episode. That's just me moaning about being tired. Bluetail Gang, loved the streams. Thank you very much. Did anyone else realise the music at the end was the Doctor Who theme tune? Yep, so as I mentioned earlier, I thought it was just a completely different track at first, and then it wasn't until I went on Twitter that I became aware of the fact that it was a rendition of the Series 11 theme. Selena was asking earlier about if I could make a theory for why the Doctor was in pain for the beginning of last week's episode. And I already responded to that message saying how I personally saw it as being just because of the sonic mine and perhaps the technology they used to fix them all up. But then Selena went on to mention that Astos saw something on a monitor and was worried, but it was yet to be explained. So, to be honest, I have yet to rewatch the Suranga Conundrum. It is one of 2 episodes that I've only seen once of this series, the other being Arachnids in the UK, just because they don't really stand out for me, to be honest. So, yeah, I'm not the best person to ask this question to, but I do believe, if I remember correctly, I think that was just an indication to the fact that the Pating was coming and was about to crash into the ship. So again, I don't really think that justifies a theory video being made. Dr. Collectible, Dr. Blue, what did you think to the design of the Vegarians? I've noticed quite a few people have done this. Maybe it was just mishearing the name of the alien race, but it's Vegarians, as in V, not Thagarians. I know they sound very similar, but they're called Vagarians, or I prefer to call them demons, to be honest, because I find the name a bit weird. But yeah, what did I think to the design of them? Yeah, I thought it was quite good. I mean, they're still humanoid, and I would like to see more creatures that do look alien. A bit like the Pating, but not as cute looking as the Pating. But at the same time, their face wasn't really humanoid, so I appreciated that at least. I liked the fact they had those spikes coming out of their back, and I think they had lots of teeth as well. Yeah, so overall, I quite liked the design. TM Martin, Dr. Blue, don't you think the Doctor should have refused to go back to Yaz's personal timeline after what happened in Father's Day with Rose and the 9th Doctor on the 14th of May, Nan's Day? I don't get the last part of your message there, but no, I think I do see what you mean. Well, firstly, from the Doctor's point of view, Father's Day takes place, I think, 1,000 years before this episode. So chances are the Doctor's forgotten about that whole incident. But then you could also argue that the Doctor does warn Yaz that it's risky doing this. And originally they were only going to stay for an hour. And I think I can see the Doctor's logic behind this, because originally they were just going to see her from a distance for just an hour and then leave, so they would have virtually no impact. But then once they find out about the aliens and how she will marry Prem instead of Yaz's granddad, obviously she then wants to get involved. So yeah, I don't think we can criticise the Doctor for allowing them to go back. Dave H voted, thank you very much. Max Carney doesn't like where the series is going. It's just not the same. What's your opinion? So my opinion is changing every week, to be honest. Most weeks, luckily, I think Series 11 is good. But then last week, I must admit, I did get very worried about the state of the show at the moment, because we'd had Arachnids in the UK and the Suranga Conundrum, which I thought were very below average episodes. Average in the case of Arachnids and below par in the case of the Suranga Conundrum. But I think at this moment in time, I think Series 11 is good, but not when it's written by Chris Chibnall, which is very worrying considering he's the showrunner in charge of, well, he's made the 13th Doctor and brought in all these companions, and he'll be in charge of all the subsequent companions throughout his tenure. Yeah, so it's quite worrying. And also he's writing most of the episodes of the series as well. So yeah, I think I'm enjoying this series when it's not written solely by Chris Chibnall. I've said before, Rosa is my favourite episode of this series, and I do think at this moment in time my second place is last night's episode. But no, I do think it's good. I think Jodie's good. I do still think every now and then I do feel like something's missing in her Doctor, but I didn't feel like that yesterday, at least, so that was good. I had a nice episode where I did see her as the Doctor. I think the companions, for the most part, are good. The cinematography is excellent with this series. The music, for the most part, is good. It just doesn't really stand out as much as Murray Gold's music. So overall, I would say it's good, but not excellent. And not bad, either. But that's just me. Elliot thought this episode was the 13th Doctor's best episode so far. Awesome. Nice. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely one of the best of Series 11. Selena is wondering if I think there's a story arc to this series. She thinks it's secrets about the Doctor, e.g. her health in the last episode. So, yes, we've had 6 episodes now, and we've only had a hint of a series arc in the Ghost Monument, which is interesting because that basically means it's not a series arc. But no, I do think if we are to call it a series arc, it's the Timeless Child and the fact that the Stenza is a threat to the universe. I think that's what Chris Chibnall is trying to lead up towards in the series finale. But we'll have to wait and see. I think it's 4 weeks away now, so under a month, and we'll finally know what it's all leading to. Dash Maniac really liked the episode as well. And don't you think the robot from the Kablam Next Time trailer reminded you of the robots from Bad Wolf? It didn't until you just mentioned it then, to be honest. I was just more creeped out by the smile it's got on its face. But yeah, very quickly, about next week's episode, that's another one I'm very looking forward to, very much looking forward to. Again, it's another episode that's not written by Chris Chibnall, which is probably the main reason why I'm looking forward to it. Also, I think it's an interesting premise, well, from what we know about anyway, the fact it's the largest retailer in the universe. I like the fact it takes place in the future. I like the fact it's not... I don't think it's going to be a Base Under Siege episode. Don't get me wrong, I do like Base Under Siege episodes, but we did have one last week with the Suranga Conundrum, and that was poorly handled. So I do think that story type needs to be left alone for at least a year now. But I think I'm also excited for the episode because I just literally have no clue what it's about. But then that could go either way. Like, I felt the same about episode 5, and as I've mentioned many times now, that episode just let me down completely. But no, I have high hopes for this one, mainly because it's not written by Chibnall. Bluetail Gang, did you think this was going to be a Remembrance Day episode? I suppose I did, in a way. I thought there would be a nod to it, maybe. Because obviously we knew the plot was about India and the partition of India and Yaz's gran. So I wasn't expecting anything major. But what I thought was quite nice, actually, and this is probably me just making connections that aren't actually there, but I liked how you could argue the demons, the Vigerians, if you want to call them their proper name, so their whole purpose now is to travel around the universe acknowledging the dead that don't really get remembered. And obviously that links in with Remembrance Day because we do acknowledge the millions who fought for the UK. And I like to think we're celebrating more than just the people who serve the UK. But to be honest, I don't really know. I'm quite bad with history. Even though I did it at A levels. Oh my god. But yeah, no, so I thought I tied the demons in with Remembrance Day. I've explained that really poorly, so I'm sorry about that, but hopefully you get the gist at least. I'm basically saying the fact that they recognise the dead who won't necessarily get remembered, it's sort of similar to what we do on Remembrance Day, which I thought was really nice. And also, there was a very brief shot of poppies, which was quite nice. Which wasn't deliberate, apparently, but I will pretend it was. Dave H. liked this episode best of the series, but I didn't like how the Vigerian assassins, again calling it Thigerian. Maybe I'm the one that's wrong. No idea. I guess we'll find out in Yaz's case file that usually comes out a few days after the episode. The Vegerian assassins were nearly the same as the testimony aliens from Twice Upon a Time. Didn't even realise that. So I guess they're not that original, really. And that's something you didn't like. Yeah, yeah, no, I think I'm inclined to agree with you. They're sort of different, though, in that the testimony people actually captured the dead and kept them alive in a way, whereas these demons are just watching over them. So they're different in that regard. But yeah, I suppose with that whole holograms in the sky thing, that is pretty much like how the dead people were put in glass humanoids. Dave H. The ending, I would have liked to see Yaz tell her nan she went to the past and seen her. Yeah, I don't really know what I wanted from the final scene, to be honest. But I did come away from that feeling like it wasn't exactly what I wanted. But it's just the fact that I have no idea what I did actually want from that scene, which is a bit awkward. But yeah, I don't know, it was a cute scene nonetheless, and to be fair, Yaz didn't have to tell her nan that she had gone back to see her. I mean, it would have been nice to have seen that, but I don't know, the writer chose not to give us that for some reason. TM Martin, Dr. Blue, even though you said the demons weren't villainous enough, do you think they were the most visually striking aliens of Series 11 so far? Good question. Visually striking. No, I think. I think they looked good. Maybe I'm just misinterpreting what visually striking means, but I think I'd like to say the Pating was the most visually striking, even though I didn't like it. I liked the fact that it wasn't humanoid at all, and I thought the CGI was very good. I believed it was in the scene. And yeah, the Vegerians are still a good design, but they do have the typical humanoid, 2 legs and 2 arms, and the whole time I knew there was 2 people inside those costumes, so it sort of took me out to the episode in a way. BT Sofa Reviews prefers this episode to Rosa, as it wasn't based around a writer's view, like the villain is just a racist. It was a historic reflection of how people were affected instead of the partition itself. Felt like 60s Who. I think I sort of get what you're saying there. Yeah, so hand on heart, I think I would have liked a bit more information about the partition. But in saying that, I do think what we got was enough. And again, just like with Rosa, it didn't shy away from how dramatic those times were. Because very early on, the Doctor mentions, oh yeah, 1 million people die soon after this date that they've landed on. Yeah, so they don't sugarcoat it at all. They do acknowledge the fact that it's a violent time. Obviously, you see Prem die at the end, and you see that mob of people force Yaz's gran out. Yeah, Yaz's gran and her mum out of their home. Yeah, so I really appreciated that, and that's part of the reason it's up there as one of my favourites of Series 11. Selena has very good ears for music, so for your information, the Indian version of the Doctor Who theme is quite a bit slower than the normal theme. I did not know that, so thank you for sharing. Max Carney, if Yaz's nan has seen Yaz in the past, doesn't that mean Yaz's nan knows that Yaz went back in time? Good question, and I have actually thought about this prior to you asking it. My answer is no, because what year did this episode take place in? Was it 1947? So at least 70 years. Is that right? Yeah, 70 years before present day. And Yaz and the Doctor and everyone else were only there for about a day. And surely we all know from experience, you're not likely to remember people that you've seen for only a day all these decades ago. Um, yeah, so that's why I think Yaz's gran doesn't recognise Yaz when she grows up to become the woman who travels back in time, because she is literally just a face that she encountered for 24 hours and is hardly likely to stand out in her mind. I could be wrong though, but that's my thinking. T.M. Martin loved the end credits song. Jack Lynch was very disappointed with the episode. It had a promising start, but the mystery of the antagonists was resolved too quickly. I've really only enjoyed episodes 2 and 4. Sorry, but I hated Rosa. Oh my god. Well, fair enough. I can't argue. Well, I could try, but I like to respect everyone's opinions, even if I do think they're wrong. So you were disappointed in the episode. You thought it had a promising start, but the mystery of the antagonist was resolved too quickly. Yeah, so we found out everything we everything we needed to know about the demons 30 minutes into the episode. And then after that point, we had 20 minutes of it being about Prem dying, but the characters and us as the audience not knowing how he will die. But I really appreciated that. I thought it was something that was different. And I'm a sucker for stories that are about fixed points in time and how the Doctor can't change things. And also, I've said it before, I'm quite morbid and I enjoy people dying in the show. I don't think this episode hit my quota of there being a minimum of 3 people dying, but I don't care because I think how it handled death was very good. Oh dear, sore throat. I've had to do a lot of talking today as part of my job interview. Bluetail Gang, did you see the poppies in the field? Yep, I did, and I thought that was a nice touch, even though it was accidental. That Angels Have the Phone Box is shouting out the fantastic music that we had throughout the episode. Yep, couldn't agree more. I thought this was one of the best composed episodes of the series. I loved the Indian vibes to all the tracks, and the music did stand out, unlike a lot of other episodes of this series. Dave H. I think Yaz's nan knows Yaz is time travelling because Yaz was asking her nan about the past, and her nan said, I will tell you when you're older, until Yaz's nan knows Yan is time travelling. Interesting idea. Though personally, I like to believe she literally did mean when Yaz is older. But then that I didn't really understand as well, because Yaz is, I think, mid-20s. So she's far from being a teenager or a kid anymore. So how old does she have to be given this information? And surely Yaz's mum would know this information and would be able to tell her, but who knows? Matt Ward is wondering what poll I was talking about. Well, if you're still here, Matt, after 20 minutes, it's in that corner there. There's various Doctor Who questions for you to answer if you so wish. Literally takes 30 seconds, and it's just a good way to gauge what everyone makes of this episode and how they compare it to the rest of Series 11. I've lost track of my timings now because I've started this 15 minutes late. There was me thinking it was only 9:30 and I was catching up with the chat, but I'm actually, as per usual, 20 minutes behind. T.M. Martin, Dr. Blue, knowing the 13th Doctor's stance on being anti-gun, didn't you find it interesting how prominently guns featured in this episode and how the Doctor couldn't intervene even if she wanted? Yes, I did find it very interesting. Yeah, and in hindsight, I think it would have been nice if maybe the Doctor could address that. Although I think she kind of did when she saw Prem's brother, Manesh, I think he was called, holding the rifle and threatening the Doctor with it. I think she did sort of question saying, oh, is that how you're going to kill him then? Like very disapprovingly. But yeah, she didn't encounter the mob herself. She saw them from afar. So she couldn't have really had a go at them unless she shouted over the field. That would have been funny to see. Elliot Bray loved the last half of the episode and thought it was incredible. Yeah, me too. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the full episode. The first half I much preferred to the first half of last week's episode, but it was the second half that really made me think, yes, this episode is in my top 2 for this series. And it was at that point that I started to get teary-eyed. Dave H, I think the best part of the episode is when the Doctor was giving the speech at the wedding. Interesting choice. That wouldn't be my favourite bit. It was a good scene, don't get me wrong, but I think hand on heart, I kind of feel like that moment was forced a bit. It didn't feel natural to me. I don't know, maybe I'm just being too critical. But if you're interested about my favourite scene, I think it's got to be the final 5 minutes of the episode. Everything from Prem going over to the mob to talk to them and talk to his brother, to the Doctor and her friends having to walk away, and the Doctor flinching when the gunshot goes off. The scene in the TARDIS between Yaz and the Doctor, and then the final scene of the episode with Yaz talking to her nan again. I was happy that my prediction was right. I forget which live stream I mentioned this in. It might have been last week's, but I predicted Yaz talking to her gran would be... I've completely lost the word for it now. The bookends? No, that's not what it is. Basically, we would have a scene with Yaz and her nan at the start and end of the episode, and then you would have the India stuff in the middle. I expected that to happen, so I was pleased we got that. Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, I loved the ending music as well. So those final 5 minutes I just thought were top notch. Tia Martin, Dr. Blue, given Bradley Walsh's popularity and nothing against Jodie, but hypothetically speaking, how do you think Bradley would have been received if cast as Doctor Who? I don't know, to be honest. And we'll never know now because he's a companion. It could have worked. Loads of people thought we couldn't ever have an older Doctor again, and then Peter Capaldi came along and blew our socks off. So an older Doctor does work just as much as it did in the 60s. But personally, I don't think Bradley Walsh would have been a good Doctor. I think he suits playing an everyman much better, but that's just me. Still 20 minutes behind. Elliot Bray, we need more of that angry Doctor like we saw in the ship. The Doctor was perfect in this episode. Yes, and I think you've just summarised there a big reason why I liked the Doctor in this episode. And that's probably why I felt like she was Doctor-like. The fact that she actually got angry for a change. Because up until now, she has been very happy-go-lucky most of the time. So yes, I did like how she got angry. But also I just felt like on the whole, she was better written. And she had more interesting things to do this episode. Maybe it was just the context she was in that I really liked. But I just really enjoyed Jodie's performance this week. TM Martin, Dr. Blue, how many times do you think you might rewatch Demons in the Punjab, if at all? Well, I've already seen it twice in the space of a day, so that's a very good sign. I watched it for the second time on my train journey back earlier. So yeah, that's a clear indicator that I like the episode, because as I mentioned earlier, episodes 4 and 5, it's been a week or 2 weeks in the case of Arachnids, and I've yet to go back to them just because I found them boring and not much was there to convince me to watch them. Yeah, so what I'm generally doing with this series now, I started off watching each episode 3 times, but that was more because I'd then watch it with friends or family who missed it. Um, but now I'm trying to limit myself to two viewings of the episode. So I'd watch it live, and then I'd watch it again over the coming week. And most of the time, I'd watch it within 48 hours of the initial airing. But yeah, in the future, I'm pretty sure I will come back to this episode many a time. I just don't know when, because I watch episodes whenever I feel like it. Take today, for instance. Not only did I watch Demons in the Punjab again, but I randomly watched Victory of the Daleks, which is an episode I have not seen in years because I don't like it that much, and yet I randomly decided to watch it today. I quite enjoyed it, actually. Even though it's far from my favourites, it was a nice way to kill some time. Jack Lynch, Mrs. Matt Smith. Oh, that's a nice lead on from what I was just saying. Yeah, Matt Smith was amazing in that episode. And I do forget how good a doctor he was. I don't think I've ever mentioned this before. I know this is a bit of a deviation, but hopefully you don't mind it. But it took about 7 episodes for me to actually like Matt Smith as the Doctor. When Series 5 first started, I thought the plots were really good, I thought Amy was good, I thought the music was good and the creatures, but I just did not like the 11th Doctor until, I think, Amy's Choice. And then after then, I loved him, and when I eventually went back to the first 7 episodes, I loved him in them as well. But it literally took me 7 episodes to get over David Tennant. So yeah, all of Matt Smith's performances in the episodes before Amy's Choice, I never appreciated that much, or I found him too dark at times, because he's quite violent in Victory of the Daleks, actually. And rightly so, because obviously it's the Daleks and he's furious at them, but he's hitting one of them with like a wrench, he's shouting, he's trying to blow them up. Like, it's a very interesting Doctor story, that episode, I think. It's just a shame about the bloody colourful Daleks, but anyway, we're not talking about that one. Dave H thinks Chris Chibnall will get better in future series. I think this series is just to get to know the main cast and their families, and it is part of his 5-series plan. Good point, but you can't take that risk, really. You can't assume that people will still watch Doctor Who in 5 years' time. You have to make every series as good as you possibly can. That's what I believe, anyway. And maybe he is trying his hardest. Maybe this is literally the best he can do. But I just do think he needs to improve, to be honest. And he needs to step up sooner rather than later. Bluetail Gang thought the episode could end with the scene of all the heads. Yeah, it could have done, but what could they have done differently to what we already saw? That's the question. We already had that really emotional moment of seeing Prem's head rise to the Indian music and then revealing all the other holograms. I don't know what else we could have done. Unless you mean literally that scene is the last scene of the episode. If so, then I definitely would have cried, I think, because that was one of the moments I got teary-eyed over. Elliot Bray is pleased that the demons aren't cat/fly/pig people. Yeah, good point, but I quite like those creatures, to be honest. Dr. Collectible thinks the Kablam next week isn't the real villain because Chibnall is really secretive. Interesting. Ten Wheel Dude is not sure what to think about this episode. They liked it, but the villain was wasted again. Chibnall may have been unlucky. We just did the surprise. I don't get that last bit. Chibnall may have been lucky. We just did the surprise. It's actually people who are the monsters at Christmas. No, sorry, I don't really understand that. 10 Wheel Dude. Tia Martin, Time Lords are supposed to be able to recognise each other across regenerations, but since the 13th Doctor is now female, do you think prior Doctors would be able to recognise the 13th Doctor? Interesting question. Well, my immediate response to that is no. Not so much because she's a female incarnation, but because she's a future version of the Doctor, and I don't think any past incarnation would recognise a future incarnation until they see that they're TARDIS or they're Sonic, or they say, look, I'm a future version of you. Yeah, so I think the 13th Doctor could literally come across one of her past selves, and while she would know who they are, they would not know who she is. Bluetail Gang, have you ever watched fan-made episodes? Not really, to be honest, but I'm gradually getting into it. And a quick tease here, I have actually been looking to fan films over the past week because I'm working on a very top-secret project, which I'm hoping to reveal very soon, if I get the time for it, that is. But yeah, no, I do appreciate fan films. It's just I never really get round to watching them myself. But it's brilliant, the creativity of some fans. I really like that. And I think one day I'll do a single fan film episode myself. I couldn't do a series, but I'll do a one-off, and I'd use an idea that I've had for years. Oh, and that question was for everyone. 10 Wheel Dude was getting really nice Fires of Pompeii vibes from the music, and it was one of the episode highlights. Is it the same sound people? I don't know, to be honest. I'm guessing no, because when Chibnall came in, I think he replaced a lot of the crew members. So it probably was a completely different group of people. But yeah, you've made me think now. The music was quite similar, wasn't it? But I think that's more down to the instruments rather than the people behind the instruments. People are going to bed, so farewell. I will have to go to bed soon as well. Elaki TV has just arrived. I think this episode finally felt a Doctor Who episode rather than the Chibnall finding his feet. Yeah. I do think Rosa was a good episode as well, though. But yeah, this is definitely one of the first episodes of Series 11 that does seem like the show has found its feet again. Elliot Bray, both Father's Day and the new episode do have that plot hole. I imagine Jackie/Yaz's Nan would remember Rose/Yasmin, considering both were such significant events in their past. I hadn't thought of Jackie remembering, actually. Yeah, because that's more recent. That's, I think, only 20 years that went by for her. Yeah, because Rose is, I think, 19 in Series 1. So not even that, it's about 18 years. But I don't know. I think, yes, you are likely to remember events that are traumatic in your life. But I don't think you're likely to remember the people who you've literally just encountered for that one day. Because Jackie, well, yeah, both Jackie and Yaz's Nan would be focused on their dead husband rather than these strangers. That's just my thinking anyway. I think if I was in their shoes, I wouldn't be able to recall all these faces. Yeah, but I could be wrong. Could be a plot hole, but I like to fix plot holes when I can. Ilaki TV, did you like the theme being replaced at the end? You liked that with Rosa? Yeah, well remembered. And as I said earlier before you joined in, I loved it again with this episode. And I didn't actually know it was a variant of the Doctor Who theme at first. I literally thought it was a completely different track, like with Rosa. And it wasn't until I went on Twitter that I noticed someone saying, oh, I loved the variation. and then I listened to it again and suddenly realised it was the Doctor Who theme. But I thought that was a really nice touch, and it did make me well up, just like with Rosa. 10 Wheel Dude thinks this episode does the same things well the whole series has so far. Great characters and acting, and the same things badly, such as lack of suspense and throwaway villain. Next week I have high hopes. Yeah, I think I agree with that comment. No, I don't agree with the lack of suspense. I think there was a lot of suspense to this episode. And yes, the villain was throwaway, but I thought the episode did something interesting with them at least. And I liked how the final 20 minutes was a more character-focused piece rather than aliens invading. I did like that. But yeah, great characters. Acting. Now, this is an interesting point for me. I really can't tell at this point. So I've said earlier, I've watched the episode twice now. I still can't tell whether Prem is a good actor or not. Something about him in certain scenes makes me wonder, is he doing a poor performance? Or am I just missing something? And I think the same goes for his brother as well. But then that might just be because the character is a whiny younger brother. But I really don't know. I tried to use my second viewing of this episode to work out if these people were good at acting, and I still don't know. But no, all the main cast were good at acting. Graham in particular, I said this earlier. I felt like the Doctor was great. Yaz came into her own. She had a lot to do this episode. Yaz's gran was okay. Yeah, so for the most part, the characters were good. It's just Prem and his brother I have no idea for. Right, I will keep going for a bit longer until I catch up with the chat, which hopefully shouldn't take me too long. Tia Martin, did you notice how most of the Indian actors in this episode had British or English accents? Shouldn't they have had Indian accents? Yes, good point. But this is a common problem with many Doctor Who episodes set abroad. Just look at Vincent and the Doctor, for instance. You've got Vincent van Gogh, whose nationality I forget off the top of my head. That's annoying. But either way, the episode makes him Scottish, which I know he wasn't Scottish, so that completely misses the mark. And God, I can't even remember where the episode is set now. Is it France? I think it's France. Either way, all the people there had like Londony accents as well. I remember there was one waitress who had a very strong British accent. Yeah, so Doctor Who always messes up when it comes to that. But it's just something we have to deal with, really, because all episodes do it. But really, having said that, Rosa didn't do that. So, yeah, I don't know why this episode didn't make more of an effort. Yeah, I have no idea. Might have been down to the casting director. They just found people who were British actors who probably couldn't do a very convincing Indian accent. I don't know. Or maybe they felt like the episode worked better if everyone sounded British. God knows. I have no idea. Jack Lynch thought the episode reminded them of the fires of Pompeii. Yep, I can see why. 10 Real Dude, there were some throwaway comments about how it was the British's fault, which I feel should have been developed if they were to have any kind of meaning or impact. My historian's bias. Yeah, good point. But then that runs the risk of offending people, maybe? Or I'm just making excuses. I don't know. Well, I think the whole partition is quite a controversial thing already, and it's hard to blame one party for it, because I'm really not an expert in this, and I do need to look into the partition because I am interested after the episode. But I like to think it's partly Britain's fault and it's partly India and Pakistan themselves getting all riled up and becoming violent. Don't take my word as gospel because I don't know anything about this period of history. I literally only know what's been mentioned in the episode, which is a family show that isn't designed to be educational. Nice and refreshing. Elaki TV is wondering why I wasn't doing this video yesterday. So I was away for a job interview which took place this morning, and it was at the opposite end of the country for me, so I had to go up the night before and stay in a hotel. So I was travelling basically when the episode, not when the episode was on, but soon beforehand, and I was just so tired and I didn't want to keep anyone in one of the neighbouring rooms awake. Not to mention I had lots of preparation to do for the interview as well. So I just thought it would be best if I enjoyed the episode and didn't have to worry about spending up to 2 hours discussing it as I usually do. So hopefully you guys haven't minded that. It's nice that loads of you could join in today, so thank you very much. I hope you're all voting in the polls as well. If you've recently joined, as per usual, we've got the polls up there. So please vote in them. Elliot Bray, did anyone see a recognisable face in the floating heads near the end of the episode? I didn't, so please let me know who it was. Tia Martin, wasn't it a great historical touch when the radio broadcast we heard on this episode was the real-life announcement of the borders being partitioned by Lord Mountbatten in 1947? I did not know that, so thank you for sharing. Yeah, that is a really nice touch. I like it when Doctor Who episodes keep to true history. So the fact they've actually used the proper announcement really grounds the episode in reality more. So fair play to them for that. 10-Wheel Dude said this during Rosa, but still convinced the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey, self-correcting history principle is being eroded by Chibnall's writing. Maybe I'm just really tired, but I actually have no idea how to answer that, I'm afraid, 10-Wheel Dude. But fair enough that you feel that way. Dave H, do you think the Stenza destroyed the Demon's planet? Now that is interesting. I think potentially. It's never made clear what destroys them. And so Chibnall could always return to it if he brings back the Stenza for the series finale. But yeah, for now, that's going to be my headcanon, that the Stenza did destroy their planet. Just because it means we get more of a series arc this way. Clint Waltman, what ratings would you give the episodes thus far in Series 11? I'd say 668,447. Oh, blimey. Okay, well, you've put me on the spot here. Woman Who Fell to Earth. Oh, I really don't know, to be honest. I think just gut reaction, because I haven't really got time to dwell on it that much, because I do want to get through the rest of the comments. Gut reaction, I'd say 6 for episode 1, like yourself. 6 for episode 2, like yourself. Oh, I'm going to do it. 10 for episode 3. I really can't fault the episode, guys. Honestly, even the villain. I know loads of people didn't like the villain, but I really found him interesting, to be honest. So I can't fault him. So that is going to be my first 10 of the series. Episode 4... 5, I think, because it literally was average, and I think I was expecting more from it. And then episode 5... God, episode 5... 2... And that's generous, I think. I could give it a 1 or a 0, really. But I'm in a good mood today. And then this week's episode 8, I think. Surely, I think that will change in the coming weeks, but that's at the top of my head. Tia Martin, back to Bradley Walsh. I heard he's heavily tipped to be given his own ITV chat show alongside the Chase commitments. Are we to assume Graham may just be a one-series wonder? I think that's likely, to be honest. And I think I've mentioned this in a couple of my previous live streams. I do get the feeling that Graham will potentially be killed off at the end of the series because we're all growing to love him. And I think Chris Chibnall knows this and has deliberately written him to be so lovable. And then I think in the series finale, he's going to do a rug pull, kill him off, and have us all devastated, which will be a shame. But I think it will make us appreciate Graham a lot more because then we'll only have these 10 episodes that he's in. Zoriac Life loved the episode and thought it was amazing. Dave H, do you think Daleks will be in this series? I know they said no Daleks, but I think there will be. I have no idea, to be honest. I think they will either make a secret appearance, like a cameo, maybe in the series finale, or the Christmas special could be concerning them, or Chris Chibnall was telling the truth. I think hand on heart, I would like it to be the last option, the option where we don't see them this year, because as I've said in many a video now, I do feel like the Daleks need to be given a rest. And I don't think they suit a Christmas special. I could be proven wrong, but I think if you're going to bring the Daleks back, you should do it in a series finale. So Chibnall should either do it in episode 10 or leave them for another year. That's what will keep me happy, at least. Dave H. Oh, that's a continuation of your previous message. There's an agreement where they have to be in every series. Yes, I've heard about this as well. So yeah, chances are they are in this series. But I hope not, because you shouldn't shoehorn them in. You should only put them in the series if you have a good story to tell with them. Elliot Bray, it sounds awful, but I want a Dalek to kill a companion or an important recurring character. That might be the best way to have them return. You know what? I agree. Yes, it's horrible, but that is one of the few ways they can be made threatening again. Yeah, the Daleks need to kill people, essentially. Ideally, have them return as a surprise, as I've already mentioned. Maybe have it like the cliffhanger to the Stolen Earth, where, so forgetting the fact that the Daleks are in the whole episode, but I'm on about the moment right at the end where the Doctor and Rose are reunited again after all these years, and they're running at each other, and then a Dalek suddenly comes round the corner and shoots the Doctor. I think a moment like that, but not knowing the Daleks are in the episode, I think that would be really cool. But don't shoot the Doctor, because I do not want any more fake out regenerations. I've had enough to last me a lifetime with them. Jesus Christ. But yeah, companion, definitely do it with. Jack Lynch, I swear Rose sat down with Jackie and told her she was at the wedding. Yes, she did, yes. But that was 20 years later. So I think whoever mentioned that point earlier, they were wondering why Jackie doesn't remember. Yeah, but no, you're right. She definitely tells her in the series 1 finale that she was there. And that was a really good scene, actually. How I think Jackie's reaction is very truthful in that scene. How she can't handle it and she has. I think she leaves the room. Tia Martin, cheers Dr. Blue on your exciting news. Will we find out about your new project this year or in 2019? Well, if all goes to plan, it should be this very month, so stay tuned. I hope it turns out to be good. There's a lot of planning involved, hence why I started doing this months ago. There you go, another tease for you there. Bluetail Gang, I think the robots will have some virus in the next episode. This is why I brung up fan episodes, as there is a great episode by DW 2012 about an evil virus taking over a ship. Okay, interesting. You could be right there. We have no idea what the plot of the episode is, so perhaps there is a virus. But that's interesting that DW 2012 has done a story like that, because that is actually the only fan filmmaker that I've seen. I've seen their most recent episode, Fall of the Doctor, and absolutely loved it. I thought it was very well made and very well acted as well by the main characters. Yeah, so I might have to look into that. 10 minutes behind. Elaki TV has just realised they're watching this in a Fez. Well, that's the way to watch it, really. TM Martin, Vincent van Gogh was Dutch. Thank you for clearing that up. Yeah, so as I said earlier, Vincent and the Doctor made Vincent Scottish. And as you've just said there, he's Dutch. So the episode got that wrong. Eljan van Oopsieland is crying. I'm just a little bit offended you forgot. What did I forget? I have no idea. So sorry for forgetting again. Oh dear. Dash Maniac, I think that in Kablam, the company are selling products made from people, and that is why people are going missing. Very, very good idea. I like that. And it's quite dark as well, which I love in a Doctor Who story. I think I'll be disappointed if the episode's not about that now. Elian is joking, but people forget us so easily. Oh, was it you who mentioned whatever point I said I couldn't remember who said it earlier? If so, sorry about that, but it is difficult when I don't have a face to put names to. That's my excuse anyway. And what's quite nice is quite a few people leave messages as well. So obviously I'm really grateful for that, but it does make it harder for people to stand out in my eyes. But I do appreciate you all equally anyway. At least I hope I come across doing that way. Bluetail Gang. The in-universe reason why everyone sounds British is the TARDIS translator. The reason why Rosa Parks has an American accent is because it does not have to be translated. Excellent point there. Did not think of that myself. Yeah, so it's not official, but this can be our headcanon at least. Yeah, if people already speak English, the TARDIS doesn't need to change the accent. So that is a really good explanation for why everyone is American in Rosa. So thank you for that. The Scamp, was this episode actually filmed in India? Sadly not. As far as I'm aware, it was filmed in Spain, which is still a very good location. And I did believe it was India, to be honest. But yeah, it would have been nice if they could have actually filmed in India as well. Still 10 minutes behind, blimey. Elaki TV, I think that with the accent issue, when the TARDIS crew's language is the same as the foreign place's accent is present, but when it's a non-English language, the TARDIS translator makes it sound British. Bluetail Gang, just seen your comment. Great minds think alike. Yeah, so you thought exactly the same. Well done. It is a very good idea, so congrats on you both for thinking of it. I wish I could have done the same, because that is a splendid idea. Dash Maniac has noticed a plot hole in the episode. The Vegarians said they couldn't see their planet die. Why is that a plot hole? Oh, right. I think if I don't catch up with the comments in time, well, I think either way, I'm going to wrap up in the next 15 minutes, guys, if that's okay, because I am feeling very tired. I must admit, this has woken me up somewhat, but I do need to get my beauty sleep to fix this face. Yeah, no, but I'll try and stick around for the next 15 minutes at least. And I'll do a final run through of the poll. So please do, if you're new to the video, vote away. Only takes a minute and it's a fun thing to do. The Scamp had a dream about Jodie. She was filming and she broke her arm and they couldn't film any more episodes. Hope it doesn't come true. How strange. What a weird dream to have. Yeah, I hope it doesn't come true either. Elliot Bray, have you seen the announcement? What announcement is that? I have no idea. The Scamp, have you noticed Jodie has got nice hands? No. I've noticed that she's got a nice face though, and that she's very pretty. But no, I don't pay attention to hands really. Tim Martin, oh, they're going to kill off Graham. Best to prepare now. Well, it's not set in stone. This is just my theory, and it's more than likely that I'm wrong. I'm just taking into account the fact that, as you mentioned earlier, Bradley Walsh does seem like he's going to have 2 shows to film next year. And I really don't think he'll find the time to fit Doctor Who in as well. Dash Maniac. Oh, is this the announcement? No? Children in Need episode is Friday the 16th. Make sure to watch it. Is it a mini episode they're doing, or is it just a behind the scenes? Let me know if we know information about that. Because I haven't actually been on the internet that much today, so I don't really know what's been happening in the world. I know that Stan Lee unfortunately passed away. That was sad to hear. But he got to the age of 95 at least, so he had a very good innings. But it's just quite unexpected. I thought he was quite healthy. Dave H thinks a Dalek will kill Graham. Yep, I think that will be the best way to do it, to be honest. And it goes back to what we were saying before about how to make the Daleks threatening again. The Scamp, do you think Yaz is pretty? Yes, I do. I definitely thought it in this episode. I think she has a really nice smile. A very friendly smile. And I've noticed, hopefully this is no... Well, I doubt... I've completely forgotten Yaz's actress's name. Mandip Gill. There we go. Oh, that's embarrassing if I can't remember that obvious fact. Yeah, I doubt Mandip is watching this video, but what I found quite funny is she has quite a large mouth. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just something I noticed in this episode, and it makes her smile even bigger, which is quite nice. But no, she's very... historical character would you most like to meet? Oh my god, that is a really good question, but it puts me right on the spot there. Which historical figures do I like? I'll have to go away and properly think about this, but if you want a Doctor Who related answer, I would love to meet someone who is involved in the very first season of Doctor Who. So whether that be William Hartnell, Sidney Newman, Verity Lambert, Waris Hussein, who directed the first few episodes. I'd love to go back then, maybe see them film the very first episodes and thank them really, and tell them about this 50+ year legacy they would have. That's my Doctor Who related answer, but I do want to give another answer that's not Doctor Who related, but literally I've just forgotten every single historical figure now. God, I can't remember anyone. Can I get inspiration anywhere? No, drawing a blank. Sorry. Hopefully my Doctor Who answer was sufficient. Tim Martin has just noticed Jodie's nice hands. DoctorBlue, have you noticed how desexualised they've made the 13th Doctor? Would fans reject her if she got a bit more sexy after all the TARDISes? Good question. I think fans would reject her a bit if she was sexualized, because it would be, what's the phrase I'm looking for here? It's making it too obvious that the Doctor's a woman. And the fact is, it shouldn't matter what gender the Doctor is. So, if in Jodie's first series they made her all feminine and too sexual, I think that would put a lot of people off. But I don't know. Again, because they didn't go down this route, we'll never know if it would have worked or not. But I think I personally would have been a bit off-putted by it. And I love her costume. I love how guys can wear it as well. It is quite gender fluid, and colourful as well, which I quite like. Right, so I've got 10 minutes. Tia Martin, thank you Dr. Blue for your time and expertise tonight, and looking forward to your exciting announcement. Cheers. See you next week. I will wait for your final poll results tonight. Thank you very much, Tia Martin. Glad you could join in, even though this was a day late. Yeah, and I will go through the poll results in a second. Elien has to go to bed, as it's 11:30 there. Bye, thank you for joining. If you are still here though, I will be wrapping up within the next 9 minutes, so if you can stay up for that much longer, please do. But I don't mind if you go. The Scamp, Dr. Blue, what would you like to see Jodie wear next series? Same, similar, or totally different outfit? This is quite an easy one to answer. Exactly the same costume. When it comes to doctors and costumes, I really like consistency, and I actually get quite irritated when the costume changes. Sometimes it works. If minor changes are made, I don't mind it. But I found this with Peter Capaldi. The change in costume between Series 8 and Series 9 was too dramatic for my liking. And I think that's a big reason. I know it sounds stupid, but that's a big reason why I don't like Series 9. Because the Doctor's whole costume changes. He now wears sonic specs, sonic shades, whatever they're called. And his whole character changes as well. And that's another major concern I have with Series 9. But even then, I think every episode in Series 9, the Doctor is wearing something different to the previous episode, and I just do not like that. I much prefer there to be subtle differences, like with Series 11. The only thing that's changed so far is the rainbow shirt the Doctor wears. She's always had the same overcoat, the same trousers, the same ear piercing, the same rainbow. It's just the colour of the shirt that changes, and that's what I prefer really, just minimal changes. Elliot Bray, sorry my typing is awful. The announcement is that Georgia Tennant is in Big Finish Legacy of Time for 20 years of Doctor Who Big Finish, alongside her dad, the 5th Doctor. Oh, very nice. I'll have to look into that once I finish this stream, and I might have to pre-order it if it looks interesting enough. Eliki TV, I've also just realised there's an 8th Doctor CD in my room that I'm listening to. I can hear nothing but Exterminate. Wow, that's quite scary. Tia Martin would like to meet the 4th Doctor. The Scamp thinks Jodie is gorgeous. Yep, I agree. Have you seen her in the St. Trinian's films? Nope, not yet. But I have seen her in Attack of the Block, if you've seen that. And Broadchurch and Black Mirror. So Jodie is one of the few Doctors I've been aware of before they became the Doctor. Which made the announcement quite nice, actually. The fact that I already knew she was a good actress and would be good in the role. My only concern was the fact that the Doctor was going to be a woman, but I've got over that now. Dash Maniac, I'm going to say it, I want Yaz to die. Not because I hate her, but because I feel one of the companions are going to die, and I like Graham and Ryan too much. Fair enough. Yeah, I've said it before. I think one of the companions will die as well. But personally, I feel like it will be Graham. Uh, Dave H would like to see the Doctor wear what Jodie had in the reveal. Fair enough. Personally, I much prefer what she's currently wearing. It has a lot more colours. Yeah, that's all I can say really. Just I prefer the more colours. Council of Geeks, hello there, nice to see you. I agree in principle, but I think it fits Capaldi's arc that he had a try everything phase. Oh, I think that's to do with the clothes. Yeah, I can see your point, Council of Geeks, but for me it just didn't work, to be honest. I think I would have been more willing to put up with it if it was kept consistent in itself, but it wasn't, because some episodes the Doctor would wear a very similar costume to Series 8. I'm basically on about the red velvet coat he wears towards the end of the series. That is basically the Series 8 costume, but red and velvety. But yeah, he spends the first half of the series in lots of hoodies and trampy clothes. I don't want to call them that, but hopefully you get the gist of what I mean there. And yeah, it's just every episode, the shirt changes, the hoodie changes, the coat changes, the trousers change, I think, every episode. And it's just too jarring for me. So that's why I don't like it. The Scamp, you seem like a great, genuine guy. Always a real, genuine guy. Always great to hear you. Oh, thanks very much. I hope I'm genuine. I try to be genuine as much as I can. Council of Geeks, and if somebody's going to die, Graham feels like the obvious call. He'll get a tender acceptance moment with Ryan and then sacrifice himself for the others. Yeah, I agree. I said this earlier. I think this was before you joined in, Council. But yeah, I do think if one of the companions is to die, it will be Graham. And I completely agree with you there. I do think he'll get a tender acceptance moment with Ryan. They may finally have their fist bump. Maybe that's the series arc. The will they, won't they of the fist bump between Ryan and Graham. That would be quite funny. Yeah. The only downside is, well, there's two downsides. One, we lose a really good companion because I think Graham is fantastic. And two, it means yet another family member of Ryan has died. And I'm not sure how much he can handle because he's lost his mum at a young age. His dad is absent. He's lost his gran, and then he'll lose Graham as well. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see what Chibnall decides to do. Am I catching up with us at all? Yes, I am. There we go. Dash Maniac, Peter Capaldi was so different during every one of his seasons. His Series 8 personality was the best. I completely agree with you there, Dash Maniac. I think we're in the minority here, but I loved the darker Series 8 Doctor much more than the lighter Doctor we got in Series 9. And I liked him more in Series 10, but I much preferred him in Series 8, basically. So for me, I'd rank him best in Series 8, second best in Series 10, and then third best or worst in Series 9. Because it was such a change, and I just felt like it didn't suit his Doctor to be that light-hearted. The Scamp, how many series do you reckon Jodie will do? Your best guess, please. I reckon 3, like all the others. Dash Maniac thinks 2 or 3. Tia Martin, I think Jodie will do 2 series and she's out by her own decision. Fair enough. Dash Maniac has a good feeling about Kablam. They always feel like episodes. They always like episodes like it. Please don't let me down. Yeah, I hold similar views. I said earlier, I'm really looking forward to next week's episode because I do generally enjoy the futuristic stories, and I really like the ones where we know nothing about the plot as well. But in the case of the Suranga conundrum, that actually let me down because there was no plot and it was just very boring. So I'm praying that Kablam is a lot better than last week's episode. Right. I think I'll read this final message from TM Martin and Council of Geeks. Council of Geeks mediator, aka Nathaniel, is on the DoctorBlue live stream. After all, the fans are the actual Council of Geeks per Nathaniel. Cheers. I actually have no idea how to respond to that. But it seems like a nice message anyway. Right. So, I will summarise the poll. While it's loading up, thank you very much for everyone who's joined in this live stream that was 24 hours late compared to usual. I do hope you've enjoyed it. And also thank you very much for waking me up, because before I started this, I literally felt like crashing on my bed and falling straight asleep. And you've all woken me up now from keeping my mind active in thinking up good responses to all your questions and comments. So thank you once again. Right, so hopefully I've updated the poll correctly. So the first question, how do you rate Demons of the Punjab? 41% of people loved it, 33% liked it. Oh wow, this is weird. It actually goes in order in how they're listed. So yeah, first is loved, second place is liked, third place is okay, fourth place is didn't like it, and then fifth place is I hated it. That's quite nice to have a pattern. I love a good trend. Which Series 11 episode is the best so far? Hopefully everyone's managed to answer this this question correctly. Let's add up the numbers and see if it has worked. 73, 87. Yeah, thank you very much. Well done, guys, for knowing how to use a poll. I did worry that some people would get confused. So the winner. Oh, so close. So winning by just a single percent with 39% is Rosa for the audience's favourite Series 11 episode so far. And then just behind it with 38% is yesterday's episode, Demons of the Punjab. Then in joint third place, you've got The Woman Who Fell to Earth and The Ghost Monument. And then in joint last place with 4%, you've got Arachnids in the UK and The Suranga Conundrum. And you know what, guys? I think I agree with that list. I think Rosa is the best episode. I think Demons of the Punjab is the second best. I think The Woman Who Fell to Earth and The Ghost Monument, you could place them interchangeably between third and fourth. And then I do think Arachnids in the UK and The Suranga Conundrum are at the bottom. So that's nice to know. I agree with what all you guys seem to be saying. Which Series 11 historical is better? 54% of people said Rosa, 37% Demons of the Punjab, and 8% of people like them equally. And then finally, which Series 11 alien race is your favourite? The winner, with 65% of the vote, an overwhelming majority, is the Demons with... Oh, I've just said 65% of the vote. Then in second place, it's the Stenza. Third place is the Remnants with 13%. And then with not a single vote, it's the Poor Pitting. So very quickly, I'll see your final messages. Oh my god. Wow, thank you for all your additional messages, guys. Keeps this going for even longer. Even though I do want to wrap this up now. Council of Geeks, whichever companion goes, I do feel like there's too many. I feel like I should know this doctor better than I do by now. Yeah, that's a fair point. I am beginning to wonder if 3 companions is working or not. Ela Key TV is going. Bye. Dark Capaldi is great from Elian. Dave H, is it Sunday, the stream next week? Yep, I'm hoping to resume the live streams on the normal time and date from now on. I will let you all know if plans change, but yes, for now, expect it 9 p.m. GMT on Sunday the 18th of November, I think. And I've just realised that's my brother's birthday, so I may not be free, but we'll have to see. Like I just said, I will let you know if plans change. Right, but I do need to get some sleep now, so thank you very much for your lovely messages. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed this live stream and Demons of the Punjab as much as I did, and I will see you hopefully this Sunday. Bye.